Today, I wanted to talk about the sprint retrospective. So, what is a sprint retrospective? At the end of every sprint, we take the opportunity to reflect on the sprint and really identify two things. One, how did we spend our time? And secondly, what things impeded the project? What things slowed us up? What technical challenges did we have? And ultimately, is there a way to avoid or at least minimize the impact on the project by identifying some of these problems and hopefully some recommended solutions to them. So even though the sprint retrospective generally occurs at the end of each sprint, I usually like to fill it out at the beginning of the sprint and then update it as I work on a project. So I've provided a template for you, and let me just walk you through the template. I'm going to fill it out for sprint 1. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add my name to the template. And I'm going to go ahead and identify which sprint it is. So it's sprint 1. And the first thing I'm going to do is identify what user stories am I working on this sprint. So let me go ahead, and I'm going to only work on one user story. And it's as a non-member, I want to be able to search profiles to determine whether the membership fee is worthwhile. So that's the only user story, but I also have some subtasks that I had included in the sprint plan. So let me go ahead and add those. Perfect. If you'll notice, I've actually left justified the user story and right justified each of my tasks so that I can distinguish between a user story and the subtask. The next thing I want to be able to do is put in what the original estimate was. So at the start of the project, we went ahead and we created an estimate for each user story. And in fact, it was 3 story points for this one. And based upon my number of hours per story point, I actually had estimated 12 hours in total. So that's it. So this should be done by Wednesday of the start of a sprint. I've gone ahead, I put in my user story, and these are the subtasks and user stories that I'm personally working on. So as I go out and I work throughout the sprint, so Thursday, Friday, I go ahead and I gathered some requirements and I analyzed them. And I started to modify the database. And in fact, I started building the software. So that's kind of the end of the first week of the sprint. The sprint's 2 weeks in length. I come back the next week. Well, guess what? I spent a little bit more time modifying the database. I have 4 in total. In terms of the software, it's taken me 15 hours. And I spent an hour on testing. So that's the actual time I've spent over the last 2 weeks on the sprint. At the end of the sprint then, I need to go back and look at my list and identify any new re-estimates. So in other words, did I finish gathering requirements? Is there any more time needed? Nope, I finished that. Analyzing. I think I've made all the modifications to the database I need. I think I'm going to need about 4 more hours of development and probably another 2 hours of testing. So I've gone ahead and adding any re-estimates. So that's it in terms of reporting both the time that I worked on the project and any re-estimates for the next sprint. The last thing I'm going to do in the retrospective is identify what issues came up during the sprint. Well, I was having a problem with JavaScript. So JavaScript debugging issues. And so I had some problems with the debugger. So I'm going to search for a different debugging tool to assist in the development effort. Okay, great. And those are the only issues that I had this sprint. And so I just have to do that, and I'm going to save this, and I will submit it to the Dropbox. So it's pretty straightforward. That's all there is to it. Just identify at the beginning of the sprint what user stories you're working on and all the tasks associated with it, the original estimate, keep track of the work as you work on it throughout the sprint. And then lastly, estimate anything that's left at the end of the sprint that needs to be done in the next sprint. And there's totals that are created automatically for you in the template. That's fine, just leave those there. And then I identified any kind of issues that really hampered my progress and my recommended solution for the next one. That's all there is to it. So just go ahead and at the end of each sprint, make sure you hand this in on time. Thanks for listening today, and good luck with your sprint retrospectives.